Hey up, Sofa Squad. I think we are definitely live. And tonight I'm introducing to you Skeptic Skeleton.
Yes, or also known as the Skeptic Skeleton, also known as Skepti by Eseth, but we don't talk about that.
Okay. Um, so to begin with, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us about your channel and where people can find you basically.
So yeah, basically you can find me on YouTube and Twitter. Those are the most prominent places to find me where I'm most active. I do have a Discord, but I'm very new at this, so it's very much a ghost town. Um, as far as my channel is more designed as a response-based commentary style, if that makes sense. Just to respond to religious or social political videos, not in a traditional sense, but in the sense of from a skeptic's perspective. So all of my videos are done from the perspective of someone who has no idea what politics are, doesn't know anything about religion, doesn't know anything about the subject matter, and how that person might respond to whoever it is that I'm responding to. The purpose is not to debate necessarily or to argue. The purpose is to make an attempt to understand and to show to the other person I'm talking to and to the audience in general how a skeptic might hear these things, so that if you happen to disagree with me, you might be more effective at communicating once you understand that you can't just start with Jesus is your Lord and Savior. You have to tell me who Jesus is and what a Savior is before we can even get there. So that's just like a
Okay.
quick example.
Okay, cool. Um, so why are you a skeleton?
So the thing about that is, in lore, in the official Skeptic Skeleton canon, it's because Logic stole my skin suit while I was bathing in the lake of fire. Um, in fan
Okay.
fiction, in fan fiction, or as some people call it, reality, I am a skeleton in particular to demonstrate someone who is as neutral as possible and has as few biases as possible. If I'm a skeleton, you can't tell my race, you can't tell my gender, you can't tell my sexual orientation or any of those other things. All you have are my arguments, which either stand or fall on their own merit. And that was the intention behind it, was to pick an avatar that would demonstrate as few biases and assumptions as possible, as well as one that can't be judged based on race, color, gender, ethnicity, all that stuff. So yeah.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Y- yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. That's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I'm glad I jumped on it.
Good. So, what made you decide to start your channel?
So, originally, it was, if I'm being honest, I was just making the internet my diary at first because I had a lot of opinions that I wanted to say and I couldn't say them in a religious family. So I had no choice but to start recording. Um, and then I thought that it might be helpful, rather than to merely criticize, to demonstrate from a skeptical perspective so that someone else might be able to understand. So that there's actually, a point to my rambling endlessly. So yeah, I really just started my channel because I wanted to be a part of the larger conversation and I wanted to be a part of the debate, but I didn't want to be told that I had to have certain political views or religious views or social views because of my race or because of my gender or because of any of that stuff. So that's mainly why I started my channel. Thankfully, I've had more time on my hands so I can be more active with it. But it's actually surprisingly old. I've actually been on for 2 years about. I just had a hiatus, unfortunately, when COVID started, and that put a stop to pretty much everything.
Hmm. Okay. You mentioned that you were from a religious family. What religion were you brought up in?
So, of course, it is the great and most prominent Christianity. But it is also a very strange one because it is a non denominational kind of thing. But if you ask the individuals, if you watch their behavior, they behave in a more Baptist style, but they claim to be non denominational for the most part. And originally, my family was not super religious as much as they were, how do I say, default religious. As in, you're born into the Americas, so you're born into believing in Jesus and Christianity and all that stuff. You don't really read the Bible. You just sort of go to, he goes to church on Easter Sunday and Christmas, and sometimes you do a Bible study, and that's it, and that's all. There's no real deep belief or conviction or evangelism or proselytizing or any of that. It was just sort of very lukewarm until my mother married a pastor. And then all of that changed, and everything did a complete
Ah,
180. And then everything was about religion, and everything became religious. And that's when I got interested in the subject as just a general topic of discussion, because prior to that I never thought about it, never had to. But once your father is a pastor and all he talks about is religion, you start to ask questions and you start to put forth things. So as I started to put forth different questions and things of that nature, I went to college. And when I went to college, I was still a Christian, but because of the whole religiosity of my family, I had decided that I was going to objectively, 100% absolutely prove the existence of God without a shadow of a doubt. I was going to accomplish that by the end of my college career. Obviously, that did not happen. Um,
right.
I took a philosophy of religion class and I realized that I didn't even know what a god was, let alone how it functions, how it cares, how it manipulates things despite having no physical properties, all that stuff. I realized that my understanding not just of Christianity but of theism in general was completely empty. I had no understanding of the things that I said I believed. And once I realized I didn't actually understand what I said I believed, what other choice would I have to be categorized as an atheist? Because I can say I believe it all I want. If I don't actually understand it and don't comprehend the concepts, I don't really believe it because I don't even know what I say I believe. So that's my journey to atheism and skepticism in particular.
Okay. Um, what was your major in college?
So originally my major was journalism, and I was trying to focus on opinions slash editorials because I thought that that is like the best job in the world where you literally get paid to share your opinions. So I was like, yeah, I want to do that, but it was much harder than it actually seemed to be. And
Excuse me.
while I was in college, I just found that I had a passion more for philosophy and those kinds of deep kinds of questions. So I eventually ended up changing schools and changing my major to philosophy and my minor to religion with a specialty in philosophy of religion. So that's really where that ended.
Okay, okay. So you know your stuff then.
Yeah, I would say so. This is my inner Socrates coming out, but I would say that I know what I don't know, and I know how to try to learn things. So I'm very much well versed in all kinds of religious arguments, not just arguments for the Christian God, but arguments for the Hindu God, the Buddhist God, lots of different conceptions of God. So I'm very well versed in this debate, and I've heard pretty much every take or opinion regarding religion and philosophy. It'd be very, very difficult to present me with an idea or topic I've never heard of as far as religion goes.
Okay, okay. Cool. So what? Sorry. What do you hope to achieve with your channel?
Um, my hope is not to convert people, not to deconvert people, none of that. My hope is that I can get people to understand a skeptical perspective, and hopefully that will make their positions, whatever they may be, more well rounded and informed. So that's why I go through the effort of trying to come at my videos from a neutral perspective and not say, well, I'm an atheist and I think you're wrong. I say, well, I'm entering the conversation and I don't know what any of this means, and you're going to have to explain it to me. And you can't just, skip past important details and just say, well, Jesus is your Lord and Savior and you have to give your life to him. I don't understand what 90% of that even means. And the point of that is not to say, therefore, Christians are wrong, but the point of that is to demonstrate to a neutral audience, and hopefully to the person I'm discussing it with, that their communication style is ineffective. And you cannot effectively communicate to people by assuming that they agree with you on certain points. You have to think about, when you put a message out, you have to think about how it sounds to someone who doesn't already agree with you. If you're making videos for people who already agree with you, that's fine, but I don't see the merit in that. I don't see where the learning comes in if you're just making videos for people who agree with you. And if you're making them for people who disagree with you, that's where my channel comes in. And hopefully I can demonstrate how it sounds to someone who's not a Christian, or who's not a Muslim, or who's not this or not that. So that's really the point, is that I want people to come away thinking like, this is or is not an effective way to approach a non-believer, and this is a non-believer's perspective, possibly.
Yeah, it sounds, yeah, sounds good. And what so what happened to Skeptic Sins?
So okay, all right, so this is funny because this was my exposure into YouTubing, and I realized how difficult it is and how bad at editing I am, or editing in terms of animations. So I watched CinemaSins a lot, still do. And I like their style of criticism. I like their style of going through the entire thing point by point, making notes, writing things out, different things like that. I love the comedic style and everything at the time. So I wanted my channel to be like that, but for religious videos. So I was going to do, instead of movie reviews, I would just do reviews of specific topics. So everything wrong with the cosmological argument, or everything wrong with the ontological argument, or everything wrong with insert whatever title here. And that was originally my plan. However, I lack the editing software and the knowledge to overlay videos with text and sound. So I couldn't replicate the feel even though I really wanted to. So I ended up changing it from Skeptic Sins to just Skeptic Skeleton, because I felt like that was better for my current level of editing prowess and my software and things like that. In hindsight, I prefer the change, and I'm glad that I did it, and I wouldn't go back to Skeptic Sins. But that was the original vision behind it, and why that didn't work. I realized I had no idea what I was doing, so I had to start with the basic: person talks, I respond, person talks, I respond. Because anything beyond that, I just don't have the technical prowess to engage with.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to what you're saying, because my channel has certainly evolved over the years, since I started. Um, my channel wasn't originally called Black Sofa. Well, when I first started the channel, it was a vlog. I was suffering, really badly from depression, and I wanted to vlog about that and
Mm-hmm.
basically just get shit off my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was still married, still living with my ex, and we had this black sofa. And I used to say, come sit with me on the black sofa. Welcome to the black sofa. Let's get shit off our chests and talk about stuff. And and I became known as Black Sofa in the community, and that's the name stuck. So eventually, I changed the channel name to Black Sofa,
That's
and
great. It's always great when a name naturally comes up.
yeah, and if you look at my earlier videos, you'll see that I used to, if you look at my earlier videos, you'll actually see what I look like. And I used to, most of the time, I used to wear a Lee's Uni hoodie. And so that became my shtick. And so that's why my avatar is wearing a Leeds Uni hoodie. It's kind of become my it's kind of become my character, if you like. So I can certainly relate to the evolution of a YouTube channel, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to update like my avatar and my logo and stuff like that. I'm just not artistic enough, so I'm currently looking for someone who could do that for me. Um, but yeah, I say that to say I'm still in the process of evolving as well. This is not my final form, believe it or not.
Well, a guy called Trey Baldwin does my art at quite a reasonable price. Um, he and he is a brilliant artist. He's done a lot of art, good artwork for a lot of YouTube channels now, and yeah, he's really good. Yeah, as you can see from my avatar, he's a brilliant artist.
Of course, he's very good. I would appreciate it at some point in time if you could link us up.
Yeah, will do. I know, no, no worries. So on to the next question. This is a good one. Did you know that there's a Fortnite channel with the same name as yours?
Absolutely no clue. I have no interest or passion or knowledge about Fortnite other than that it's a game that exists, and that's about it. So I was completely unaware that there was any other channel that had the same name as mine, actually.
I only found it because when I looked you up, this other guy's channel came up as well. But and all of his videos are him playing Fortnite basically,
Of
and
course.
I think he's about 12, 13 years old, and he's only got about 5 or 6 subscribers, probably his friends,
Of course.
who he plays Fortnite with.
That's funny.
So,
I made a joke after my Seth video came out where I mentioned that around this time last year I had 6 subscribers and now I have like up to 50. And my original 6 subscribers were mostly just friends and family. So a year later, I'm glad to see that the rest of the friends and family decided to subscribe.
yeah, that's good. And hopefully you'll get a few more subscribers after tonight as well.
Yes, hopefully. And I do plan to make videos on a regular basis. Unfortunately, I can't do weekly like I want to do yet. I'm trying to get my own place. Once I have my own place, then I can do weekly. But for now, I'm trying to do at least maybe bi-weekly, monthly, something consistent.
Yeah, and good. The reason I started doing this introducing series is because I know firsthand how difficult it is to get that all important first 100 subscribers, and
Mm-hmm.
so I I only interview people who have less than 100 subscribers. So and my aim being to give them a bit of a boost towards that first 100. So hopefully, this interview will do something towards that.
Yes, and I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and the platform as well.
Yeah, yeah, no problems. No worries. Um, who are your main YouTube influences?
Um, so I have several, but there's kind of been like an evolution to my YouTube influences. So originally, as far as my content is concerned, because obviously there are lots of different YouTube like genres, but as far as the genre that I concern myself with, the very first atheist skeptic YouTube channel I came across was Armored Skeptic. Um, and he presented me with different perspectives that I had not considered before because this was prior to me going to college. Um, and I had a lot of misconceptions about non believers and atheists and different things like that, where I didn't really understand what an atheist was. I was just told that they were terrible people who had no morals and ate babies. So that's just what I believed because I didn't know any better and I didn't have any skepticism at the time. So he was my very first exposure into that kind of content, and it really got me thinking. And from there, I went from him to Jacqueline Glenn, to Bionic Dance, to lots of different other people. Obviously, Eseth, Logic, lots of different other people I can't think of off the top of my head. But I would have to say my favorite. So Eseth might be mad at me for saying this on script, but my favorite influence has to be Anti-Sleeper. He's not a super big YouTube channel, but I think the way he constructs his arguments and makes his points is really, really good and really, really compelling in the sense that it really does make you think. So he was one of my main influences. And as much as I admire all of these YouTubers, I am trying my best to keep to and find my own unique style because I don't want my channel to just be like a mirroring of someone else's channel.
Yeah, I can get that. And you bring up Eseth, and that brings us on nicely to our next question. You recently made a video with her. So how did that come about? And what other YouTubers would you like to work with?
So the story of how that came about is complete and utter shot in the dark. She was premiering a video on YouTube. I can't remember which one it was. And as the video was premiering, while videos premiere, the person who made the video can interact in the comment sections live. And she was discussing to someone else how she was going to invade their channel recently. And so I saw that and I just was like, I'm going to shoot my shot. And I shot my shot. And I said, hey, if you're going to invade people's channels, you can come invade my channel. And so she said, well, you have to have a channel. And it's like, funny you mentioned that. I actually do. So she looked into my channel, looked into a couple of my videos, and then agreed to make a collab with me. And I am endlessly grateful and endlessly honored to have worked with her because, like I said, she's been one of my main influences and, dare I say, role models. So I was very happy, very proud to have done that. And like I said, that's the story of how it came about. Not very dramatic, just kind of by accident, just kind of like, hey, you want to make a collab? And it was like, sure, I'll make a collab.
That's awesome. And sometimes that's the best way that these things come about. By accident, by happenstance.
Yes, absolutely. And it really put into perspective. And I have other friends of other beliefs that want to have people on their channel, and I always encourage them, you have to shoot your shot. You have to shoot your shot. You'll never know what'll happen. You might be able to get that interview, you might be able to get that person on your channel. You never know. It's always important to shoot your shot, and even if they say no, it's still a learning experience. You can try to figure out what maybe you need to do to improve to get to that level where you can. So that's just my advice to people, is in general, if you want to talk to someone, you want to invite them on your channel like you invited me, just shoot your shot. Just send a DM. Just try it and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And who else would you like to work with?
Um, Number one on the top list, I know is biased, but I would love to work with Logic. He just seems like the most awesome guy, so I would love to work with him. So Logic would be number one. Anti Sleeper would be number two. Don't tell Anti Sleeper I told you that. Um, of course, I want to continue working with ESEF. Um, I'd love to work with Jacqueline Glenn as well, although that one's probably much less likely. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, a lot of the old YouTubers I used to follow have either moved on to different subjects or they are not they're not the same in terms of what made me be drawn to their channel in the first place. Not to say that they're good or bad, but just to say that they've changed and they don't talk about things I'm passionate about. So yeah, I'd love to do videos with mainly Logic, Eseth, Anti Sleeper, and Jacqueline Glenn. Those are the ones that come to my mind up top, off the top of my head. Fun fact: I've actually done a response. Well, it was more like a stream, but technically a response video to one of those people.
Okay, cool. Um, who who do you think you'll be responding to in the future?
Um, for right now, I'm trying to make sure I cover bases on the subject of religion. I want to touch on socio political issues, so the things that probably get people canceled, like feminism and SJWism and conservatism and right wing and all that stuff. But again, my perspective is still going to be the same. It's going to be from a neutral perspective, um, as well as I'm not going to speak from a position of authority. So I'm not going to talk about politics. I'm going to talk about social issues. So if I talk about feminism, I'm talking about feminism. I'm not talking about the new feminist law that came in or the new law that comes in because I'm not a politician and I don't have the proper education and credentials to discuss such things. I wouldn't I try to make sure that I don't overstep my bounds, if that makes sense, and I don't speak based on information that I don't believe I have or speak when I don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about something. That's why I've never made a video on the COVID situation, even though I have opinions on it. I am not a doctor, so I don't feel qualified to inform people or give people a skeptic's perspective of that. I just don't have enough information and I don't feel qualified to talk about it, so I'm not going to. So I say that to say I want to touch on socio-political issues at some point, but not politics directly and trying to understand that because I don't believe I'm qualified for that. I can just give a skeptical perspective on how some ideologies like feminism or libertarianism might be viewed by a skeptic. So that's what I would like to do. I don't have any specific people in mind, but I do take suggestions. I do take requests. So anyone watching or Black Sofa yourself, anyone you recommend, I'm more than welcome to challenge. Right now, I think I'm working on a Gary Habermas on the facts of the resurrection.
Okay. Uh,
Heavy
Um,
heavy air quotes around facts, by the way, because I've watched his video.
of course. Um, Apologia and Godless Engineer are very big on that topic.
Yes, I notice. I'm so sorry I forgot them. Those are also two of my favorites, who I'd also love to work with. And like I said, my video is going to be different from Paulogia's because Paulogia's is not lazy and he actually does the research and will actually say that this person is wrong. Whereas my perspective is I'm going to come in as a completely neutral party. How would someone who doesn't necessarily believe or disbelieve in the existence of a historical Jesus, how are they going to respond to these facts? Are you going to be explaining it in a way that they can understand? Or are you just going to say that you're right because these things are facts and you should believe me? And then I'll explain why that's not particularly compelling and could be used to justify anything. So that's the structure I really want to stick to make sure that my videos are distinct and different from, say, Apologios or, I'm sorry, Pelagias or Godless Engineers.
What music are you into?
So here's the thing about music. That's a common question that I get in real life. Um, I kind of like a little bit of everything. There's an app I'm pretty sure you know of. It's called Shazam. So like if I'm out and about and I hear a song that I like really like, then I just use the Shazam app to like figure out what song that is, and then I go find it and download it and add it to my playlist. So I like a little bit of everything. But if I had to say which is the most like of which genre I have the most music of, it would probably be some version of rock, metal, things like that. I'm not exactly clear how those distinctions work, but I know that there are those kinds of distinctions between like rock and metal and stuff like that.
Okay. It sounds like you've got a similar taste in music to me.
Oh, then what's your taste in music? How would you
Yeah.
describe it?
I mean, I would describe my taste in music to be quite eclectic. You know, but I've got a mixtape that I have on my phone, and one song could be uh, by Nirvana, for example. And then the next song
Hmm.
that comes on could be by Dr. Dre.
Yes, my that is very much akin to my shuffle playlist. I am also, as what most people would call an anime nerd, so I also have various anime songs jumbled in there too. So like my playlist is like as diverse as anything.
Yeah, yeah, mine too. What's your favorite anime? Because I love anime as well, actually.
So that's a really hard question because I like a lot of anime and it's hard to say my favorite. Now, I if there are anime fans in the audience, I might get 8 for this, but that's fine. But my favorite anime is School Days, which I don't know if you've seen it, but for the most part, it starts off very generic, semi-realistic. Guy likes girl, has childhood best friend. Childhood best friend has crush on him, but he has eyes for some other girl, and childhood friend helps him hook up with the other girl. All that kinds of stuff. And then midway through, everything changes. Like everything you think you know about romance anime just stops because for some reason he just completely flips in his mind and he starts sleeping with all kinds of girls that have crushes on him, and all the girls just like try to sleep with him for some reason. He sleeps with the girl he wanted to, his childhood best friend, his childhood best friend's best friend, and it's just insane. And then at well, I don't well, I'll spoil the ending. If you don't want to know the ending and you're watching this, cover your ears or just like skip ahead. But in the end, his childhood best friend ends up stabbing him, and the girl that he liked ends up chopping his head off. And then they have a blood fight, and then the girl that he likes ends up slitting the throat of the childhood best friend and then cutting her stomach open just to see if she was pregnant.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty intense and takes a pretty hard turn. But the ending is very much shocking and you very much wouldn't see it coming, so that's why I say it's my favorite. But again, that's why I said I might get judged for that, but that's okay.
Okay, fair enough. I've never heard of it actually.
I do genuinely I highly recommend it. I'm gonna be honest. The first couple episodes might be a little bit hard to get through because they're very generic. They're very high school romance anime, all the tropes you've ever seen. But once you get into the meat of it, and there's a lot that I didn't say for spoilers' sake, but once you get into it, I'm telling you, it can be really, really compelling.
Okay.
But if
But
you're looking
my
for something more lighthearted, then I would just recommend Baka and Test. That's also like my second favorite because that's just pure comedy gold.
okay. My favorite. I mean, this is probably this is probably an anime cliche, but my favorite is Death Note.
Believe it or not, I've never actually seen beyond the first few episodes of Death Note.
Oh, right. Okay.
I always
Well,
I always mean to. Um, so I guess this is a fun fact about myself, since I can just share fun facts. Um, I have ADHD, so it is very difficult for me to do something that I in fact say I'm going to do. So I keep meaning to watch that, but then I get distracted by something and then I'll never come back to it. So I'll start the first few episodes, I think up to the part where uh, the did I apologize. I know the anime nerds are going to kill me in the comments of the video, but I am terrible with names. So all I know is the detective investigator genius guy does the trick to figure out that whoever has the death note and is killing people via heart attack is in Japan, and that's where it ends. I didn't get past that. I don't know what happens after that, but I know the basic premise of the show in the first few episodes.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I really recommend it. You know, if you can get into it, it's yeah, it's
How long is it? Like
oh,
episode wise?
I can't remember off the top of my head how many episodes, but there's quite a few.
Okay.
There's a,
I know the
I think,
typical format is either 12, 24, or 757. There is no in between. You either have
yeah,
shows that run for a little bit, or you have Inuyasha, which just has every episode. How many episodes? All of them.
yeah,
And 7,000 movies.
yes. There's I'm just looking it up now. Yeah, there's 37 episodes altogether.
Okay, that's not too bad. If this was like One Piece and it had like 400 episodes and just one season, and then they do a time skip and that has 556 episodes, that might be a little bit unmanageable. But I think I can do that.
Okay, cool.
Sorry,
Um,
we took a hard turn into Anime Town.
no, that's fine. No, I'm a huge anime fan myself. Uh, but what's your favorite movie?
So I have multiple favorite movies. I know this is I don't know, relatively speaking, this might be the normie choice, but Avengers Infinity War. I genuinely loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved the fact that the bad guy won and half the people were gone, because that's so unique and unusual, because in every other story it's like the good guys always win, so it takes drama out of it when you're like, I know the good guys are going to win, but then they don't. So I that's one of my favorite movies, but a lesser known one that's more realistic is it's called Inside Out, I believe it is, with Denzel Washington, and it's basically about a robbery that's going on, and the way the robbery is set up is like the robbers are set up in the bank, they've kidnapped the staff and people who are there and all that stuff, and it's all about negotiation. However, at the end of it, you real again, not gonna spoil the actual thing, but at the end of it you realize that the negotiator was being played the entire time. And if you want to
Hmm.
know how the negotiator was being played the entire time, you're going to have to watch the movie. Again, it's Inside Out with Denzel Washington. Highly, highly recommend it.
Brilliant.
Also, as a this is more of a show, not a movie. As a bit of unintended comedy, there's a show that came out on CBS. I think it's called God Friended Me. It is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. I love it. I highly recommend it if you need a laugh, because you're like, this is not how an atheist would actually react to a given situation. That is perfect for that.
Okay, brilliant. But I think one of my favorite movies, a movie that I keep coming back to time and time again, is The Big Lebowski.
I think I've heard of that before. What's it about?
Well, it's kind of a dark comedy,
Hmm.
and yeah, the premise is that there's this guy called the Dude, and his real surname is Lebowski, but everyone just calls him the Dude. And these two guys break into his apartment, and they start to rough him up, and they saying, "Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money?"
Hmm.
And one of them pisses on his rug,
Oh wow.
And it transpires that there's this millionaire called Lebowski who they were really after.
Hmm.
And his friend says, "Well, the big Lebowski owes you money for your rug." And so they try. The dude tries to go after the big Lebowski, the millionaire Lebowski, to get his money back for his rug, or to get his rug back, or get some kind of compensation out of him, basically. And
Hmm.
he gets caught up in this kidnapping uh, story uh, because the big Lebowski's trophy wife gets kidnapped, and he ends up getting involved in it. And hilarity ensues. Basically, that's the basic premises. Or
It's intent. Is it like, is it comedic unintentionally, or is it intentionally trying to be comedic?
it's intentionally trying to be comedic,
Okay.
but it's very dark humor. And it's
I'll,
made by the Coen brothers.
oh, really? I've seen some of
Yeah,
their stuff. I'll try to check that out then.
yeah.
I remember two of my other favorite. They're not movies, but like Well, yes, they are my favorite movies, but movie franchises. The Sharknado series. It's amazing. I love it. It is the most ridiculous. It is the textbook definition of so bad it crossed back over into being good. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, you have not experienced life until you have seen a tornado with sharks. I can't stress that enough. And that's not the most ridiculous part of the Sharknado series, but I'm not gonna spoil it. And then the other one is just like it's the Jigsaw horror series, which I didn't used to like at first because I was never really into horror movies. But I watched the first one, and the first one was really good because it wasn't really about like gore and blood or guts or anything like that. It was more about like, how do you say, mystery and planning, and the ending is just so amazing and good. So I highly recommend the first movie. A couple of the other, like the first three movies are good. The rest of them, they're not really as good because they're not mystery based. They're just, hey, look, killing people, and it's not interesting. But yeah, I recommend that, and I recommend the remake, not the remake, but the Jigsaw movie that most recently came out in 2018. So I recommend those. I can't remember the main actor's name, but he is amazing. So yeah, highly recommend those, and of course Sharknado.
Okay, okay, cool. Um, so what is your perfect idea of a night? What's your idea of a perfect night in?
Um, so this depends on if it's by myself or with other people. By myself, a perfect night in is just video games because I'm into video games. I am mostly into DC Universe Online, where basically you can create your own superhero or your own supervillain. You go through a certain amount of like different story scenarios they put you in, and obviously you get to face off against famous comic book characters. Depending on which side you are, you get to fight Batman, or you get to fight Joker, or you get to fight Superman, or you get to fight Lex Luthor, all that stuff. And then they basically it's a live online experience. So as the comics are updated, they update the game itself. Sometimes it matches the comics exactly, so you're playing right through the comic story that most recently come out. Sometimes they edit around it and they make their own like side story that's not comically accurate. But either way, that's the biggest video game I would say that I'm into thus far, just because it has a lot of customization and creative opportunities, and you get to pick your own superpower, and you get to just do a whole lot of crazy stuff that's really, really interesting and really, really fun. So, yeah, that I would have to say is my biggest video game endorsement.
Okay.
Oh, that and Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. As controversial as that one might be. Because that, not that it's bad, it's good, but like I don't, like you could get into a whole argument about the bad things about that game. Whether it's the lag, whether it's the people who cheat and mod the game, whether it's just the RNG, which is just random number generator, which is just like you gotta pray and hope Despite even if you do everything that the game asks you to do correctly, you better hope that the random number generator gives you whatever it is you want. And there's no predictive algorithm to it at all. You just are just hoping to get the things you want. So if you are like Dragon Ball and say you want to dress like Goku, you better hope they give you Goku's outfit, or else you're just going to be doing the same quest 50 times hoping they give you Goku's outfit. So despite that and many other gripes, I still recommend Xenoverse because it's the same thing as DC Universe Online. You create your own Dragon Ball character and you get to play through the Dragon Ball story. And who doesn't want to beat up Goku? I know I do.
Brilliant. Yeah. And what is your favorite book, and what are you reading at the moment?
So this ties in, and this is really good to why I brought up my ADHD. Reading under ordinary circumstances is very difficult for me. So, to explain a little bit, this is my understanding of my ADHD. So please don't take this as a representation of ADHD in general. I am not a professional. I am not a doctor. Just want to clarify that. So, with my ADHD in particular, it's hard for me to sit down and read a book. Even when I was a Christian, I tried to sit down and read the Bible, and once I got to the part about genealogy, I couldn't do it because it was just this person is this person's son, who is this person's son, who is this person's son, and I couldn't do it. So books really have to like grab me and really be good attention getters. So my favorite book that I've ever read is Anthem by Ayn Rand, because it was the only book that ever I got like hyper fixated on and like I hyper focused on and I couldn't put down because I liked it so much. And it made a very good, I think, social commentary about identity and how we view groupthink versus like having your own unique identity and collectivism and all different kinds of themes like that. So I would say that's my favorite book. The book I'm most recently trying to read is a book that a Christian friend of mine recommended. Is it by Gary Habermas? I don't know, but it's a book basically about I think the title is something like "Is God Immoral?" or "Is the God of the Bible immoral?" So that's currently what I'm reading through, and let's just say it is rough. To put it mildly, it is very, very rough.
Okay.
But yeah, Anthem by Ayn Rand is my favorite book, and the Habermas Defense of God's Morality is the most recent book.
The junk shop library is saying "Begats, huzzah!" and because that reminds me of a joke that my pastor used to make when he was talking about the genealogies in the Bible. He used to say that all they did was begat in those days.
Yeah. I for some strange reason, I completely forgot the comment section was a thing, and now I'm discovering it. And I just want to shout out Purple Rhymes with Orange because they're one of the only people to actually sit through all of my streams with me. So major shouts out to them.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, he's right about the Lilith thing, but Christians don't talk about Lilith because that's not convenient and that's not canonical. And then you get into a whole argument about, well, what is canonical when it comes to the Bible? Who decides which books are canon or not? So, also thank you to, I think it's Dog or Doogie. I don't know how to pronounce it, but thank you for Inside Job. That's the title of the movie with Denzel Washington. I don't know what I can't remember what I said. It was not that, but that is the correct title.
Okay. Which brings us nicely to the final, to the final question. We're going to open up to the side chat now and take questions from our viewers. So if you've got a question for Skeptic Skeleton, now's the time.
Yep, I am taking all questions.
Purple says, I discovered Skeleton a couple of months back when the converted man interviewed him.
Yes, this is true. I don't know how the deconverted man found me, but he did, and he was gracious enough to interview me on his channel. So that at least helped me to get my first 20 or so subscribers just from featuring him. I've fallen off the cart a bit, but I try to do live streams every Sunday, and from time to time, the deconverted man will pop in and pop out. Um, Sometimes it's good. Sometimes I want to get through a specific topic, so it's better that I just do it by myself, because if he and I go to it, we're gonna go off into a side topic and never come back. So yeah, that is I consider that to be a good colleague of mine.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yep. Any other questions? I'm open for anything. Well, I guess while we're waiting for questions, there was a blog post that I was recommended by oh there was a blog post that I was recommended by a friend of mine. I think I actually will try to put the link in chat, and it is basically trying to defend the idea that the Bible doesn't endorse slavery. However, thank you very much. I appreciate the subscription. Welcome to the fam. However, it's perplexing, because they use Bible verses and they bring up specific Bible verses about slavery and the Mosaic Law and what the Mosaic Law tells, and then they say it says the opposite of what it literally says. So an example is I think it's Leviticus. Well, you can find examples in Leviticus and in Exodus, but in Leviticus, Leviticus chapter 25 verses 44 through 46 to be specific. You can find examples. This is a good example of where God tells people how to enslave people. You can buy them from around you. You can hold them for a certain amount of time, and it's very clear that it is not indentured servitude. It very strictly says they are your property, they are your possessions to be passed down forever, they are your money. So it's very clear, not just endorsement in support of the Bible, but a clear explanation on how to do it. Yet for some strange reason, the person who wrote the blog post will just say, no, that's not what it says. The Bible doesn't endorse that. God just, he already was trying to find out a way to get rid of slavery, and instead of just adding it to the Ten Commandments, he just didn't. So.
Okay, yeah.
And thank you, Robert X. Thank you.
Purple is saying, what is don't own people, not one of the Ten Commandments, if that is the base of all morality?
I think purple means why is don't own people not one of the Ten Commandments? And that's one of my questions as well, was just, this is God we're talking about. So I bring up the analogy. I wrote a response to this. It's super long, so I really don't have a space to put it. There's no way I could fit on Twitter. But I'll link it. I'll link the article so people can look at the article and then look at my response in the comment section. Anyway, there's sort of like a Superman paradox that happens in comics sometimes, where it's like Superman is super fast and he has the ability to hear almost everything going on Earth. He just is able to tune certain things out. So the problem with that is that when it comes to Superman and villains and situations, it's like if he cared, he'd already be here. There's nothing stopping him from being here because he's Superman, he's super fast, and he can go anywhere he wants. He's almost invincible. So the question becomes the same thing with God. If God actually cared, he would just speak and it would be gone. We're talking
Yeah.
about, from the context of Christian theology, a God that spoke light into existence before light existed, which is a whole other side issue. How do you create, like, you don't know what light is, so how do you speak it into existence if you don't even know what it is to begin with? But putting that to the side, he said it, and then light existed, and that was the end of it. So why can't he do the same thing with slavery? Don't own people. How hard was that?
Yeah. Simples.
Simple. And there's so much mental contortionism about, well, he didn't want to have a political uprise and he didn't want to cause backlash, and they tried to compare it to prohibition of alcohol. And here's the problem with that comparison, of comparing it to prohibition of alcohol, right? God, and I'm going to be very frank here, so excuse me, God fucked up Egypt. Like, he unleashed the plagues and devastated Egypt, and then had the audacity to harden the Pharaoh's heart to make it harder to release the people he wanted to release. God is by no means interested in any of this political keeping the peace, not interfering with free will nonsense. He will rain fire on you. He will kill all your animals and your crops. He will give you plagues and boils and all of those things, and also kill your children. And yeah, so you can't use that as a defense for why God doesn't just get rid of slavery. Because when it came to that kind of slavery, he quite literally just bent the rules of reality because he felt like it. But when it comes to Leviticus and Exodus, he tells people how to enslave people instead of just saying, yeah, I just freed you from slavery. Don't do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Also, the comments are correct. 7 of the 10 commandments are different variations of please love God.
Yes. Dog asks, do you know that apologetic theists are amongst the most dishonest people on earth?
So here's the thing about that, right? I would say that they are intellectually dishonest, not deliberately dishonest. This is just in my perspective. I tend to know that they, as crazy as it is, they are not intending to be deceptive when it comes to this. It is just something they don't know how not to do. I even made a comment on the whole blog post where it's like, you are defending the Bible here in this blog post because the Bible can't defend itself. You have to come here and make justifications and make verses sound different than what they are, instead of just citing the verse that says God said he don't like slavery. But you can't do that because that verse doesn't exist, so you have to take a whole bunch of other verses, copy and paste them together, and try to make it make sense. And that is not intellectually dishonest. That is not intellectually honest, is my point. So I don't think when apologetic theists are engaging in debates, I don't think they're deliberately like, I know all this is nonsense, but I'm going to try to push it anyway. I think they're like, I have to make it make sense. I have to defend it. I have to put it together in some kind of way, and I have to make it make sense in my head, because they've already started from a theistic position. So they're already biased to the subject, and their bias is going to be to defend it rather than to look at it honestly. Which is why the blog post wasn't, let's look at Bible verses. It was, let me defend Bible verses, which are two very different things.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, we've been chatting for an hour now, so I think I'll wrap things up.
Okie dokie, that's fine with me. I do just want to quickly shout out Robert X with the Job story. That's also very interesting because Satan, the bad guy, just apparently has access to God on speed dial, and then they make a bet, and then Satan or God, I can't remember which one, but one of them just fucks up Job's life, and in an attempt to win a bet. And then when Job gets mad and is like, God, why are you killing all of my family? Why are you fucking up everything I love? He has the audacity to be like, do you know who created the heavens and the stars? How dare you question my authority? And it's like, no, you're messing with this man's life. He kills Job's family just to prove to Satan that Job is pious. If that's not an evil God, then please explain to me what is, genuinely. So that was just my little side tangent on Job and why that's a pretty good example. If you ever want to show people why God is evil, just the entire story of Job, the whole thing. Other than that, sorry to interrupt. I'll let you wrap up and do your outro and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
also, thank you for having me on. I always appreciate the opportunity. If there's ever anything else, I will try to get back into my streams on Sundays. You're more than welcome. If there's any video you want to do, also more than welcome. I am more than open to anything.
Okay. Brilliant. So I've put the link to Skeptic Skeleton's channel in the description. So do subscribe and like and share his videos and subscribe and hit the bell icon and all that stuff.
Thank you.
And
Yes, thank you. Like, share, subscribe.
and we'll say goodbye for now.
All right. And now I'll do my usual stick, which is that I appreciate all of you a lot. Okay, now I'm done.
Okay. Bye for now.